But with Labor Day around the corner, it's important to get into that conversation. Labor is always top agenda. And obviously we have seen firsthand the impact of the labor movement as it pertains to the recent general elections. But we won't get into all of that this morning. We are really treating with, rights, employee versus, employer as it pertains to employer and employee, and that middle ground that we could find. Of course, we are touching base with the National Union of Government and Federated Workers, the Nugfw. And with us this morning, the first Deputy President General, Comrade Clifton Simpson. Comrade Clifton, great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning to everyone, and thank you for having us.
And Labor Day greetings in advance to you.
Yes. Thank you.
Again, Labor in the conversation, we have seen the importance of Labor, the movement, that collective voice. Obviously not every Labor movement would have been on the same page as it pertains to the last election cycle. But more or less coming out of that, we recognize that the needs and the, powers that be need to obviously pay attention and listen to what Labor is bringing to the table. Walk me through what are some of the most basic, let's treat with the basic fundamentals. I know, yes, many times the negotiation will always be about payment, but outside of that, what are some of the basics that a labor movement will push for when you all have that conversation at a table with employers?
Well, first to begin, the most basic thing that labor has been involved in is the right to collective bargaining and to belong to an organization. Those are some of the fundamental principles that are enshrined in our Constitution. When we sit down to have a discussion with an employer, it is not necessarily always about what pay structure you're going to get.
Because people get the impression that it's mostly money, but yes. I know it must be more than just the money.
Well, yes, sometimes it resounds to a cost to the employer, but it is not necessarily about a cost benefit to the employee in terms of they getting that money in their pocket. Health and safety regulations is one of those things that you would find coming up. And things like vacation leave.
Yes, very important conversation.
Right? So the money is not direct. It's not as though it's coming into the workers' pocket as an addition to their normal pay. Those are benefits that we have fought for over the years and that we enjoy up to today. Though some probably take it for granted, but we stand on the backs of those who came before us.
That's right. From your experience during negotiations, how does one, is it to do with the skill of the negotiator, the skill of that person representing the union? Because I'm sure you would have come across some very hard-line employers who I'm sure probably at some point were able to meet you in the middle, or at least cave in at some point in time. Walk me through the mood and the atmosphere of a negotiation. If I was a fly on the wall, what I would experience?
Well, there are two types of hardline employers, employer representatives. Employer representatives.
Representatives.
Right, because sometimes it's not necessarily the employer as such, but how the representative present themselves, even in the trade union movement and whatnot. It depends on the scenario. There are those who will come with an enthusiasm to address the employer's interests in a very aggressive manner. And there are those who come with the enthusiasm to be fair to the workers who we are negotiating on behalf of. And they adopt different attitudes and approaches. Based on that, based on how they approach it, it will tell you how long the process will be. There are some people who will see the right thing right in front of their face, but because they're so stubborn in their ways, or to prove a point, they will stick to it. And usually, when we reach to that stage, it means that you end up breaking down. Or you may find yourself compromising at times. But you have to read the room, and that will come over time with experience of treating with people, because we are human beings. So obviously you're going to have those you have to seek those opportunities to get the better of things.
Yeah, and reading the room is so important. I guess emotional, conversational intelligence, and basically
Yes.
also having your research, having your facts on paper to present to the employer representative.
One of the things that we tell younger comrades now is that be careful and listen carefully, because sometimes the employer giving you the win, and if you go into the room with a mindset that is aggressive and not inclined to negotiate, you may find that you would already have your win and you're arguing for nothing. And so we have to always maintain that principle of cool, calm, and collective when we're negotiating.
Comrade, as the labor movement come far, you consider Buzz Butler and the movement from then to now, leaps and bounds, you all made some strides?
Yes. I mean, the laws that we have on our law books now is evidence of that. They're not totally how we would prefer them to be, but from where we were then to where we are now, people don't recognize how the strides the labor movement the trade union movement would have made over the years, and the significant contribution that those persons who came before us, what they would have given to the Trinidad and Tobago landscape, and I dare say even internationally too, because some of our judgments are used as case law for international practice of industrial relations. We who are here now, we are trusted with the responsibility of maintaining that what we got before and to try and improve upon it. And to be quite frank, it's about human development, It's not just trade unions wanting to get more money and whatnot. Simple things as the lighting in a room, those are things we sit down with the employers with. We represent an industry where sometimes the space could be too cold, and room temperature is important. And those are things that we have to consider, because there's always the talk about productivity and all this sort of things. And when we advance a position where that is concerned, that goes towards productivity.
And in that regard, Comrade Clifton, when we consider productivity, what do you say to the detractors or even those who are very critical with the union? Because there is the concept that there are many employees who will do the bare minimum because they feel protected, or they feel there is the union they could fall back on. Well, you can't touch me, you can't talk to me, I am a union member.
Right.
And there is that perception that they just do the bare, they work to rule, as it were. What do you say to those who would levy that level of criticism towards you?
Persons, especially if they're employers who have that mindset, I would tell them, examine yourself. If the people whom you are charged with the responsibility to manage have a particular attitude or approach to work, it means that there's something you are probably doing that you cannot motivate them. The second thing is, we do not, as a policy or a practice, encourage our members to be non-productive. Because in any enterprise, the more it produces, it means the more that you could get. So, and we do not encourage that sort of thinking. But I would throw the responsibility on the persons who have to lead and manage on a daily basis. Examine yourselves and the approach you take with an employee, another fellow human being, and think about how you would feel if it were meted out against you on your daily goings and comings and whatnot.
Is there a wave of optimism with the new administration? We do have to go deep into politics this morning. It's not that kind of discussion, but clearly we saw via the April 28th election that Labour played a critical role in bringing this administration over the line.
Yes.
Is there a sense of optimism with that result?
Yes. But we would hope that lessons would have been learned from past experiences. And as I tell people, we in Labour, we have our currency is our presence and our voices. And when election time comes, our fingers. And we have to battle against people who come in with cash and hard currency to support parties. And those of us who would have joined I don't want to use the word bandwagon, but who would have latched on to what was offered by the current government, we felt very enthusiastic about it because we thought that given what was offered, we can't get less than that. And they offered more. And we thought that given where we have been over the last few years, and particularly after COVID, and workers' pockets, how they've been affected, and even the mental health and all too, based on our ability to meet bills, we felt that it is the better option to take. And so we go into it with a great deal of enthusiasm on how it would turn out. We're just giving them some space so that they could come into their own, and then we will see where we go from there.
In terms of union members, is there ever a scenario where there's almost like a target on the back of a particular employee, if indeed the employers are, and as we know, it's been a reality for many years, there are many employers who are anti-union, and there are many sometimes young staff members coming into organization, and they might be a bit apprehensive, a bit nervous to join up, even though senior people in the organization saying, come in the union. But you find some young people they're not too sure, they're kind of on the fence. What you want to say to that young employee this morning?
You could never go wrong being a part of a trade union. All that you are walking into your workspace right now was accomplished because of being a union being present, and your contribution to it would make the union that much stronger, to make you more comfortable in your job. That's my thing. But with respect to victimization, yes. As I say, there are some people who approach industrial relations and human relations in a particular way with the hope that it may please the employer. And there's a law for that, it's called victimization for trade union activities. And those persons, though it is not always enforced, because sometimes prudence takes a better fold, because some of them are workers too. And so you find a balance on how to treat with them and get them to back off.
Indeed. I want to take it to the finances part of it. I know you said that you're giving the new administration a chance to settle in. But when we get down to the brass tacks, and money is again part of the conversation, in the current economic climate, do you think what many are asking for is indeed a fair coverage, really, for the employees?
Fair? It is more than fair. If we were to really ask for what it is we feel is just, then the request may be more.
Because I know there were talks of 4%, now we're hearing, 10.
Yeah, but
I mean, it's somewhere fluctuating in between there.
What those people would have lost, in particularly from COVID to present alone, is justification for more than 4%.
But did you all accept the 4? The union you
Our
represent?
union? No.
So you're not accepting the 4?
No. We have stood on the principle of that if COLA is not on the table, then we cannot accept it. There's an inherent principle with respect to COLA. COLA represents a lot of the inflation and whatnot that would have taken place over a period of time. And those workers, the value, the spending dollar value of those workers' income was attached to that COLA. And to be quite frank, a lot of if there are business people who are against it, I just want to advise you, you consider how much more you would probably make if those persons had more money in their pockets, and how much profit could come to you. And see how best your business could be stabilized. And consider too how much more taxes that will be derived from those persons spending that will go right back into the coffers of the state. So it is an investment. And further to that, the productivity of workers, their willingness to really go out and make that extra effort. Consider what will happen when they're comfortable in their financial minds, those who have those challenges, and they could be able to pay their bills and whatnot properly.
Comrade Clifton, as we look to wrap things up, what are the major plans in place for the Labor Day March? I know everybody, it's you know, they go Faizabad, the birthplace really of the labor movement.
But of the modern day labor movement in Trinidad and Tobago, I mean, there was a movement before. We didn't call it labor, but in truth and in fact it was common working class people coming together for a purpose against a colonial power that was oppressing the people in the land at the time, primarily Africans and East Indians, because we were the bulk of the labor movement back then. Our plans are, we are all assembling in Avocat Junction in Faizabad for 8:30 on Thursday morning. And from there, as far as I'm aware, we will be following the procession all the way to Charlie King Junction, and where you would have the balance of speeches and, of course, cultural shows. Before the 8:30, I think there will be the traditional laying of wreath at the different heroes of the labor movement from the Faizabad constituency at the time.
What you just mentioned that predates Faizabad, was that to do with the water riots of 1901, or is it?
Yeah, well, no. Some of those persons, they would have played an integral part in what happened at Charlie King Junction.
Okay.
All right?
Right.
And
like I went too far back. I went too far back. Yeah. But I understand what you're saying.
But it is to give honor to them.
Yes, because I know, you know, from growing up in South, you know, you always pass, you see Bus Butler's statue there, and in the 80s, you know, you'll hear different stories, and then in school, you're able to get a little bit more of the history. But I think we need to document, and we need to really have the labor movement and that story in the curriculum so that students could get a greater understanding. Yeah, I'll let you close off with your Labor Day greetings, man. Go right ahead.
Okay. Well, to all the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, we want to invite you down to Charlie King, to Avocat and to Charlie King Junction on June 19th. We want you to bear in mind the labor movement is not a movement for you to fear. Everything economically, aside from business investments, the rights you have, the liberties that you enjoy, is because of those sacrifices that our ancestors would have made on our behalf. And one of the best ways to honor it is to participate in the trade union movement and all our activities, become members, raise your voices. The stronger we are, the better we are. And as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, we have played our role also in the development of this society. When you become part of the movement, you will understand it and appreciate it a lot more.
First Deputy President General of the Nugfw, Comrade Clifton Simpson with us. Labor Day greetings to you, sir.
And I will reciprocation to you.
All the best.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. Indeed, a pleasure. We take a pause, we come back, a couple of different segments to take care of before we head to the 7 a.m. news update. See you soon.